We are officially live. Another episode of Shut Up and Invest. And this time we got special guest in the house on a hot topic that everybody loves to talk about. A little bit because of the TV shows, a little bit because people see the success stories, but not always the horror stories. We're going to get into all of it. We got Mr. Ace and Mr. Gabe in the house from Palm Beach. What is going on, fellas?
What's up? What's up?
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, you're over there living the life, bro. What are you, on a yacht, caviar, champagne? What's going on?
This is the more glamorous side of what we get to do, which is hang out at places like this. I wish I could say that every day we were hanging out on the Intracoastal, but believe it or not, I actually am working as we speak.
Nice. Is that one of the properties you guys are taking down?
Yeah.
Very nice. Jay, what's up with Puerto Rico? How's the living the life over there? Every day I hear more and more of us expats moving over there.
Hey, they're rushing over here like crazy, man. You better get over here before it's too late. Nah, Puerto Rico.
Did you start filing the tax exemption stuff already?
Oh yeah, I'm in the process. Yeah, so we'll do a whole show on that. When I wrap up mine, it's all set and done, and we'll do a show on that. But yeah, it's good, man. Beautiful over here. It looks like it's beautiful over there where Eats is at in West Palm. I see Miami's warmer than it was last time we talked, Kevin. You don't have the hoodie on today, so that's good.
As you can see, Eitan's here is in Florida. That's what we're experiencing right now. Back to shades and t-shirts, the way it should be.
Amen.
Happy for you guys. I felt bad when Miami was like 60 degrees. 60 is like 20.
Guys, I know you guys are in the middle of doing a flip. We appreciate you taking the time and joining us. The real questions that I have for you guys, I want to start off on how you guys got started in the business, a little bit about your story. I had the pleasure of meeting you guys and see your growth and your explosion. I can't speak any more highly on the integrity and just good dudes that you guys are. So I'm more than happy to see how everything is going. You guys are rocking and rolling, obviously still standing after the pandemic. So I guess real estate is still alive and properties are still selling.
Oh, I love that. That's great, Kevin. Yeah, it's funny because you hear so much concern about the pandemic. And I remember towards March, April of last year, right before the shutdown occurred, we locked up 5 properties that week that we were either going to rehab or wholesale. And I remember it was one of our bigger weeks at the beginning of the year. And we were just thinking, what are we going to do now? Lockdown's getting ready to occur. I think we had like 30 properties that were in our pipeline that we had on the market, that we were rehabbing, that we were wholesaling, that we had under contract. And it was one of the toughest conversations that Eitan and I have ever had. Like, what is our plan? What do we do now? And we just put our nose to the grindstone and said at that time, look, we're just going to stay consistent. We're all in on this. We did, in fact, pause marketing just for a couple of weeks just to see, because we were marketing heavily. We spend a lot of money in marketing each month. But all in all, aside from a couple of weeks, and we did end up wholesaling a lot of things after talking to our business coach. Hey, let's just reduce exposure a little bit. But we didn't stop all in all. And in fact, through this entire pandemic, we've really, really honed in on some specific types of marketing that work really well for us. And we've stayed consistent. Eitan's done an amazing job building out our rehab side of our business. Right now, we're about 50-50 wholesale and rehab. Starting to do some more volume on the wholesale side. But I think really just keeping it really simple and focusing on what works for us. That's really what we've done, and we found that together. That's what we did. So we didn't run away. We didn't get fearful. We hear, prices are going crazy and all this kind of stuff, but business has been growing for us year over year. And that's just really what I do right here. Like right now, This thing's on airplane mode. I keep it on airplane mode probably 5 hours a day as I'm here at the office making phone calls, setting appointments, doing deals virtually. I don't let this thing distract me. I deleted Facebook and Instagram off of my phone. Still have my accounts. If I feel like it on the weekends, I might pop on there, but I just delete all the noise out of my life, stay focused, and our numbers have been going up.
Awesome. You know what? That's so awesome too. When you delete the apps off your phone, you have to actually go onto the website, the Chrome to go on there, or Safari. You go on a lot less. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that story. And Eitan, you're
That's
over
awesome.
there. You're cracking whips now on the rehab side. You got the crews going, rocking and rolling. Has the pandemic at all been an issue with the crews working on your places, or tell us a little bit about how you've been navigating the waters?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, it's, kind of to touch on what Gabe had said, going back to last year, we were on pace to have an incredible year. With that week, mid-March, we got five properties under contract, and the plan was to rehab all of them. And so as the work spread, that the country was shutting down, there was also a big hedge fund that blew up, and so the whole market for hard money dried up. So we use an institutional lender resells their hard money loans on the open market. So basically credit dried up, and also they were reducing exposure limits. So it was a real challenge navigating through that period. Making sure that we had enough cash on hand to be able to close, that our credit was, our ability to borrow was still intact. That was, one of our biggest fears was, okay, if we take these properties down, are we going to have the money to take them down, number one? And then number two, should we even be taking them down because is the market drying up? So there was a big concern that, we were going to see a decline in prices. So now that we're a year beyond that, we're very fortunate that whether we went through a recession, or whether that was a recession, or whether the recession is to come, I don't know, but prices have shot up, and so that's been incredible. As far as the rehabs are concerned, the labor force is it's shrinking, right? It's because everybody and their mother is trying to do rehab. So everybody, all the people who are good, all the good crews, they're all being shared amongst professionals like us and amateurs who are seeing it on HGTV, and they want to get their hand into fixing up houses. We've also seen prices on things like lumber go up like double, triple. So that's making the rehabs more expensive. But as the prices have gone up, it's allowed us to maintain our margins, even with the increase in the labor price and increase in materials prices.
Yeah, 100%. I was actually talking to a lumber provider, and his business blew up in 2020 like crazy. He's saying he's selling for 3 times more than what he was selling before, and that it's not slowing down, and he's had to catch up to try to scale his team to keep up with the demand. So that tells me exactly what you just expressed. I guess the biggest question that we get on this show all the time is how to find the good flips, how to find what's a good deal. And I know, Gabe, you've been becoming a Jedi on the acquisitions and sales sides. And then if you're finding the good deals, how to find them, and then what's the determining factor on whether you guys keep them or you wholesale them?
So Kevin, great question. I think a lot of people get hung up on trying to squeeze water from a rock. So they do their marketing, right? A deal comes in and they try to figure out, how can I make this work? I think reframing it in a way to say, this is what I'm going to focus on, whatever it might be, buying via quick claim deed, giving them a few $1,000 or whatever the situation is, doing creative financing, only searching for properties that are wood frame properties that are highly distressed, whatever fits in your box that you want, that works for you. You've got buyers that purchase in downtown Lake Worth. All they do are wood frame houses. They did 50 last year. That's what these guys want. Okay, I'm going to market to these type of properties. And if it fits that bill, that's the one. And then cut out the noise, because when you start trying to do things at volume, you're going to get a lot of noise all the time. Before you know it, one day leads into the next, leads into the next. So I think it's really looking to see which one comes across your desk. It's like, okay, that so far fits, 4 out of the 5 items that I'm looking for. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this one. And then as soon as you realize that it's not going to work, cutting it out and moving on. So it's picking something. If it's, probate properties or whatever it might be, find that niche, find the qualification of what it is that works, and then determine, and then don't try to make a deal. Because that's what we did for a couple of years, was we'd get into all of these, and it's still enticing, right? Because I love to make money. So I said, oh, you know what? We can make 15, 20 grand on this if. And before you know it, you're spending so much time on it that you just missed out on the $40,000 deal because you're trying to do this deal. And that's the hardest part, when you know that there's money to be made on one, but you don't have the control to stay consistent. And consistency is the key. That's one of our core values, to stay consistent, to say, no, this doesn't fit the bill, so move on, right? So any of the marketing, to me, it doesn't matter. Any of it can work. I mean, we do a lot. Direct mail is our biggest one, but we've done everything else: Facebook, PPC, basically everything. But as long as it fits what we're looking for, it has to be distressed. There has to be a personal situation or a financial situation. And then we cut right down to it and get to the numbers quickly, see if we can help create their solution. And then if we can, great. If not, we move on. We don't push it out. We don't take a long time. Time is much more valuable than the money aspect. That's what we've learned.
Awesome.
I think also I was gonna say, Gabe, too. The other thing that's important with our marketing is having the really wide mouth of the top of the funnel, right? Like, not laser focusing on individual, like driving down the street. Hey, this property is going into foreclosure. Let's try and get this property before it goes to foreclosure. You can spend a lot of your time trying to get one deal, but it's having the volume of the leads coming in that we can cherry pick which ones are the most motivated. And I think that's been a huge key to our success.
Yeah, that's definitely good. And I think, to your point there, if we were starting, we joke around sometimes and say, let's say we just started over with everything. I'd take $40,000 in some form of marketing, borrow it, market it hard, spend it pretty quickly, get the leads that came in, know ahead of time what I'm looking for, and then find the ones that's a deal in order to flip it as quickly as possible. I think having the courage to say that's okay to spend money in marketing, because there's so many deals out there, right? Like, I mean, especially the wholesalers in our area, it's so fragmented. I mean, you look at the properties that are being sold to investors, the people that are selling them, there's so many. We're doing deals every week, and it's always numbers, or it's always names of people that I've never even heard of. I mean, there's a lot of people who are doing it from outside our area. However, so it shows me as well, and we've looked at the data, that there's so much opportunity, that being concerned about that, the scarcity of there not being enough, is not there. But it's just more about staying consistent, right?
Definitely, yeah. Consistency is always the key. Me and Kevin always say that no matter what marketing you do, just do it consistently and you'll see results.
Yeah.
I had a question. How did you guys get together? Like, you guys are a team right now, a partnership. How did that partnership form? What is each roles? You know, I see Eton's outside, you're inside. You know, he's enjoying the boats and the sun. You know, what are you guys doing? How that formed together?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, it's funny. I've always been entrepreneurial at heart. Had a couple of businesses, had a lawn maintenance business as a teenager. Used to sell new skin products. Did that whole thing and a couple other things. Cold calling people at night. And we dropped out of college. I wanted to be a doctor initially. And my dad passed away tragically, and he was a pilot. He used to fly planes and helicopters. I was really close to him. Was always interested in it. So I went the aviation route when I was 19. It was fun, you know, kid making some extra money, flying all over the place. Thought it was great, and then realized that I was getting stuck in that whole thing of the typical employee type situation. But I was always doing stuff on the side, selling stuff on eBay, Craigslist, buying stuff from people, you know, at garage sales and then reselling it. And then got into real estate, started wholesaling and on the side as being a pilot. And I was at a real estate investment club in Boca, met Aton at the club, and he was actually he as well had been flipping houses full time at that point, and I was still a pilot. So he had his own business, I had a side hustle, and we just sat down. I think I even still have some notes that we wrote down from one of our first get-togethers. We didn't know each other, but I liked him. I liked, you know, what he was doing. He was winning deal of the month consistently back then. They have this little challenge, and so we started to do a deal together here and there, and we'd partner up on one or two deals. Again, we weren't friends. We didn't know each other, and then we said, hey, we like how we work because we're very different in a lot of ways, very similar and very different. So we got together, and that's basically how it started. Now the company is growing. And so, again, we're 50-50 partners. We started our company. We both own it equally. But now we've decided to level it up, right? So we've separated the roles. We have business coaches. We're hiring additional people. And so I've taken the CEO role as far as the people and building out the company is concerned, just from a structural standpoint with people. But that's all that means. And Aton is built out, and this is what's really important here as far as, you know, for us meeting with you. He's built out the rehab side. We're doing a lot more rehabs. We're going to do bigger rehabs. And he's built out a private placement fund now. So that's what he's been in the process, been working his butt off on that. And so, yeah, Aton.
Yeah. So thank you, Gabe. So yeah, all of that stuff. I think what you know, Gabe said that we kind of initially, you know, like we weren't friends, and we kind of meshed together. We met at the club, the real estate investment club. You know, I had been doing rehabs for a couple years. I was a stockbroker before, immediately before entering the real estate business. And I remember July 1st, 2014, I walked into my boss's office and I said, I've had enough and I'm done. And he said, well, and this is very uncharacteristic. He said, well, you know, I'll let you stay on the rest of the month while you kind of, you know, get back on your feet and figure out, you know, what you want to do. You know, I don't want you to starve. And I said, no, listen, man, today's my last day. That's it. I can't do anything else. I appreciate the generosity. And it's one of those things like where you take a leap of faith. Within a couple weeks, you know, I have some family that has a strong background in real estate, and I was talking to them, and they suggested that I start flipping houses, and I put together a business plan and was able to get a little bit of seed money in the form of some loans, which, you know, of course I paid back. But I was doing, you know, back then you could get deals on the MLS. So for me, it was just a numbers game. How many offers could I throw out? And I was spending so much time going out on appointments and putting offers out and then not getting properties. So I was doing maybe, you know, six or eight rehabs a year if I was lucky. And right at the time that I met Gabe, I was thinking, now I had never wholesaled a house in my life. And, so I didn't know really how to wholesale or what that was all about. I always felt like, hey, if you can buy the house, just buy it. Don't deal with wholesaling. So when I met Gabe, I was really thinking about, okay, I need to level up. I need to come up with some kind of a marketing program to get more leads, to get more houses to flip. And so it was a situation of meeting the right person at the right time with the right values and the right resources. So what do I mean by that? Gabe and I, we have very common interests, in aviation and other things. And so, that attracted me to him, and what I was doing attracted him to me. Fortunately, we have the same work ethic where we will work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if that's what's required. And we have the fire, the desire inside of us that never goes out, right? If one of us worked harder than the other or put in more time than the other, this wouldn't work. And lastly, we came to the table. We came to the business with roughly the same amount of resources. So it wasn't like there was the idea guy or the money guy or the guy that works hard and then the guy that's like the guy who puts in the sweat equity and then the guy who puts in the real equity. We both put in the sweat equity. We both put in the real equity, and we also both put in the ideas. But it was a situation where by having complementary skill sets, it was like 1 + 1 = 10. All right. And so that has been like one of the greatest things in my life. Like just like meeting my wife, where I was like, hey, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Meeting Gabe was like, wow, we have all of these shared values and we have this work ethic and we both have the same dreams and we both want to achieve the same things in life. And we both want to have the same business to be able to do the same kinds of things outside of the business world, like, on the philanthropic side and then, building our families. So having those same goals means that by doing this thing together, we get to our destination faster and enjoy the ride that much more. So that's why we have this incredible partnership.
I think two things that each one of you shared that I want to make sure people listening walk away from. First thing, Eitan, you just expressed that when you wanted to do this, you actually sat down and put a business plan together, which I think that's key, because that business plan showed the people that you approached for funding that you were serious, that this wasn't just, hey, I got an idea, I saw YouTube, I heard a podcast, I took a quick course, and if I can get $40,000, like Gabe expressed, I'll just, buy a couple postcards and then phones are going to start ringing and we're flipping properties. Like that tends to be some of the common ways that I see people kind of get into this, and they just kind of got the idea and they got the hunger, but they never really sit down and ask themselves, what does a business look like? And then how much is it going to take? And what are the different roles and the departments and exactly what's the strategy behind this idea and this hunger? And then Gabe, you hit it on the nail, where you basically say, pick a niche, identify what you're looking for and stay consistent. And if it doesn't fit that criteria, keep it moving and don't get tempted by that sexy, seductive, oh, I can still make this work, right? Because we're problem solvers. And I think that's always the biggest challenge when we have something on our plate where it's like, I mean, I could make this work. It doesn't fit my niche. It doesn't fit my wheelhouse, but I could still make it work and we could still make 20 grand off of this. And that tends to be the snake in the grass that kind of then turns into the biggest headache and time sucker. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I want people to listen to when they're starting this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I just want to say real quick, Eitan, the other thing to your point on what I said, Kevin, was that really inside, like I remember back when we were getting going, the fact that there's a lot of knowledge that we don't have, right, when we're starting to do this whole thing. But I used to try to mask that lack of knowledge with presenting myself in a certain way, almost like fake it till you make it kind of thing, which can apply in some instances. But the faster that I learned to be totally transparent, whether it be with the seller, whether it be with a buyer, whoever it might be, that really stands out, especially in our market, right? Especially in the South Florida market. If you're just totally transparent, like I still see every day, there's a guy that we partnered up on a deal with, and the total spread on this deal, let's just say, is well over 6 figures. And you hear him talking about it, and he's like so fearful that somebody well, I want to make sure that you're going to do this, and this is how it's going to go. And we've had the conversation multiple times. I was like, dude, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? We're going to have to wait again another month or two for another deal. Like relax. I think people really get wrapped up in the fear. So when you go to invest that money, if you put in your mind that, okay, I'm going to put this money out in marketing, what if I don't get anything? What if you don't get anything? Like, yeah, what's the worst? What's the worst thing? Like, listen, at least you're taking the risk. Old people, they interviewed, I read some study somewhere that said when they're on their deathbed, they look back over their life. What's the one thing that they wish they had done more of? It was take risk. And that's fun, right? I think it's fun.
Yeah. No, that's so key. That is so key, right? People get so paralyzed, right? They get so stuck, and they're afraid to take that step. And it's like, hey, it's just money at the end of the day, right? You realize when you make money, you realize it's easy to make money, right? I mean, if you've been doing these deals enough, right? Okay, I lose a deal, there's another deal out there, right? So what's the worst that can happen, right? That's the key. You talked about that niche, right? You talked about how you stick to what you guys are doing. And the question I get all the time is, right, how do I evaluate fix and flip properties, right? Do I use 70%, the 70% formula? Do I use this formula? Like, what is your guys' niche, or what is your formula you're using where you say, hey, this is a deal that we want to take on?
Yeah, and I want to apologize, Eitan. I think Eitan had something else to add to what was said before. I think I cut you off there. Were you good there, Eitan?
Yeah. So, and just quickly, one of the things that you mentioned, Kevin, is sticking to as far as sticking to a niche, not getting distracted by the shiny objects. And it's very easy for somebody in the very beginning to get distracted by shiny objects. And a perfect example is, while I am here right now, there are two people who were referred to me as realtor clients, and we don't really do a lot of brokerage stuff, but it's like a $700,000 purchase, and so potential, I guess, a $21,000 commission, and it was a very easy decision to say, listen, guys, I would love to work with you, but I have a partner who I'd love to have work with you as well, who I think may be better suited to give you more time and attention. And pass that off to him, right? So, and that happens a lot. We do that a lot in this business because Gabe and I have to focus on our niche, right? If I think about, okay, how much time is it going to take me to make that $21,000 commission, right? And am I sacrificing getting other deals or doing things that are going to make me like 10 times more money in the time that I could spend to make $21,000? So I think like success for me is defined by being willing to pass up opportunities and leave money on the table because there's a bigger pot of gold out there that we're working towards. So, whether it's like giving up, like Gabe had a very high paying job as a pilot, giving up that job because it was really costing him money because he wasn't pursuing his dreams by staying in that job. So that's the one thing I want to say to anybody who's out there who's thinking about, what do I do? What's my niche, or how do I get started? I think you got to look at not what do you have to lose by doing it. It's what do you have to lose by staying where you are.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then as far as determining how we go about doing it, kind of piggybacking on what Eitan said previously, we had a threshold of, hey, can we make $15,000-$20,000? We had these really thin deals, which was a regular occurrence. So we'll basically just determine ARV, determine the amount of, if there's any title or lien issues, how much time that's going to take, how much work needs to be done on the property. And if we believe that if we have buyers that are looking, we know our buyers well, and we have very good relationships with them, and we keep in touch with them, talk to them, take them out to dinner, that kind of stuff. and then determine if it's something that somebody else wants that won't take our time. I mean, we'll wholesale a property for, I don't think we've seen anything less than $10,000 this year so far on that. But, you know, our threshold for wholesale is $15,000 at the minimum. If we believe we can wholesale it for that. If it's a rehab, we're not going to rehab it for less than $35,000. It just takes too much time and resources. That's our bare minimum. And if we can't make it work, like we have many that come across, you know, in front of us here that where we're like, you know, this would be a $20,000 deal, but it's going to take 3 months maybe. We just won't even do it. We don't pursue it. To Eitan's point earlier, because the next, you know, who knows what the next phone call is going to be.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Now let me go ahead, Eitan.
No, and so we're now at a point where it isn't just looking at how much profit we're going to make, but also how much time is it going to take, how much effort is it going to take, and you know, that's something that we never thought of when we were in the beginning of the business. We would just take whatever we could get, anything that walked in the door.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Trust me. The motivated sellers, you mentioned that earlier, Gabe, as far as if you don't really feel that there's a motivation there, if there's some type of real need, you're not really considering that a hot lead. So walk me through a little bit about you mentioned direct mail is pretty much your biggest marketing tool. So that's generating, if you want to give me an idea of kind of like a campaign, what are the general numbers, and then the phone calls that are coming in, how are you kind of filtering between motivated, what exactly is hot, and then what are you doing with the ones that are like, well, I mean, you know, give me an offer, but you can't really uncover a real need.
Oh, I love that. That's all you like pitting right down into the absolute crux of how the business works. Yeah. So so basically the way that it works is, yeah, so we'll send out anywhere from 25 to 40,000 pieces of mail on a monthly basis to the areas that we like. The phone calls come in. We have acquisitions people that will take the phone calls. And we don't have a script. We just have a sales process. We don't like to script it, but as quickly as possible, we want to determine if they're qualified. So everyone has their method of qualification, right? So what is our method? Our method is we want to know, first of all, can the property be updated? If it's been updated within the past 10 years, we're not really, that means that the property aspect doesn't qualify. So it's 3 things: property, personal, or financial. If one of those things is an issue for the caller, then we'll continue on talking to them. So we just determine it first. And if it's a person who calls in, yeah, I want to sell, you sent me the card. What are you going to do? What's your offer? You know, that kind of thing, right? That's the normal thing, right? So I don't immediately throw that out, because then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to determine what type of person is it. You know, and if you listen to any Chris Voss stuff, right, you got 3 types of personalities. You got your assertive, your analyst, or your accommodator. So there are assertive people out there that are motivated and qualified, but they come across as not on the phone. So I'll dig a little bit further, use some of the sales tactics of, hey, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm really sorry. I just want to determine if this is, we like to see what the best solution is for you. And if your property is something that would work for us, that kind of thing. Just have a quick conversation, and they continue to go, then I'll go for the no. And I'll say, it sounds like you really aren't in a position where you really want to sell your property. Instead of trying to get it to work, I'll just go directly for the no. And then it'll either confirm it, or they'll back up, and then we can continue on. It's like a little dance, right? So one of those 3 things to determine if it's qualified. If I can't determine that within 5 minutes, I'm off the phone. I'm off the phone. They immediately go into the CRM. They're going to get follow-up texts, emails, phone calls over the course of until the property is sold. So it'll hit back up, and then if they respond to that, it'll pop up on my CRM as a past due. I'll get in there. I'll have another phone call. Hey, it's Gabe again. I mean, there's a lot of these people out there that will have that. I've been speaking with. There's a guy that we wholesaled his property last month, and I've been talking to him for 2 years. Every 2 to 3 months. Hey, just checking in with you. Just want to say hello. Your file was on my desk, etc. And just keep the conversation going. So that's basically the determination. Inbound, not going to spend a ton of time, but not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I need to know within 5 minutes, or I'm moving on, and then there's just a follow-up sequence.
Yeah, no, I laugh because I do a lot of direct mail too, so I always get that. You send me the car, give me an offer. And it's like, hey, it's not that easy, right? But what you said is so true, because people do get hung up. They get hung up on trying to force that initial call that makes sense to lead, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, right? So, in our system is the same way. We have follow-up campaigns where if it doesn't make sense right now, we put you on an automated campaign and we let the system do the work, right? Instead of us doing the work, So I love that. I love that the three things you guys said of how you value them: financial, the house, or personal, and then just moving on, right? If it doesn't work right now, move on to the next leads. Don't get wrapped up and tied down with all that minutia with, those in between leads who want to sell. They do want to sell, or they want to call you, right? But they're just not ready yet to sell for what we wanted to buy the house for.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd also mentioned, as far as, when these people call in like that, basically, like not wasting a lot of time with them. However, just realize and just cutting down to the core of it as quickly as possible. And then you'll know they'll circle back around. I think the barrier to entry, this is what I was going to say, when people are starting to get into this, having a hard time with people being angry with them on the phone. And I mean, if there's one thing, it's just like, who cares, right? I mean, we get so upset. I was joking around with Aton the other day. We get, letters in the mail from everybody. And I just throw it out. I don't understand why it's such a big deal, but obviously it's a big deal to a lot of people.
Oh, it cracks me up. My wife and my daughters will be sitting here, right? And somebody will call and they'll be screaming, they'll be cursing and screaming out. And it's like, that person took 2 minutes out of their life to call me and yell at me when it's like, hey, just keep going on with your life, right? I can never do it, but it is funny.
Yeah, funny.
I love it. The fact that you're kind of filtering through this as fast as possible and then letting the system do the work if there's no motivation is genius. Now, the initial 25 to 40,000 pieces of mail that you guys send out is obviously working. You're getting the inbound calls. How are you managing when you want to now implement a new campaign as far as like texting or inbound PPC? Are you turning off one thing? Are you cutting back on one thing and going towards the other? Talk about a little bit about the blend of the inbound process when you have new ideas and the dynamic between both of you in discussing whether you should or shouldn't and how it works and budget wise, so that people in a similar situation can kind of go behind the scenes in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always like to use our control pieces as a test bed. So we're constantly every month testing to see if something's going to do better than the other. However, no, we'll never shut anything off until it's proven to consistently perform better than the last piece. Then we'll shut that off. As it relates to texting or that kind of thing, some people that answer direct mail, usually the older people, are going to respond to that. But some people that get direct mail are going to respond to texts, right? And then cold calls. So we do all of them, and the response rates are obviously different for each one of those. But yeah, so we'll test it. We'll send out a piece, look at the response rate. Next month, do a test piece against it, and we'll discuss what we want to do as it relates to that. But we really don't, I don't spend, like I told you, I don't spend a lot of time on social media. What are other people? I'm not really worried about what other people are doing. I'll go directly to the source, like our mail house. I go directly to them. And I say, look, these are our response rates. What are you seeing to that compared to this? Who are the masterminds in the country that are testing new pieces? That is one of Aton and my core values, is that we really don't try to reinvent the wheel. Once the business, and we're building the business to run on its own by the end of this year. However, at this point, we're just taking other people's great ideas and just implementing that until we just sit back, and then we'll think about what's the next big idea. We're talking about the other type of stuff we want to get into. So.
Very nice. Aton, whenever there's these new ideas that you guys discuss, talk about a little bit from a raising capital or deciding the budget, and what kind of conversations you guys have with each other, and how much of a risk are you guys taking? Is there a certain percentage that you guys have allocated to put back into the business for new ideas? How do you manage that so that you're not doing 7 different things at the same time, taking you away from your bread and butter?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of that happened earlier on when we were getting started. I think now we have it down pretty well as far as what we're allocating towards new marketing. We have budgets. We have historical budgets. I mean, we first off, we track all of our KPIs, and we track all of our spend on marketing and overhead costs, et cetera. So we know what we're spending, and we know what we're getting as results. So there really isn't a whole lot of guesswork in what we do. But in the beginning, it was, hey, let's try this. Let's try a different color postcard, or hey, let's try some different verbiage on the text block, something, or hey, let's use this cold caller, or let's use this answering service, right? So all of those things that we tested, they either work or they didn't work. But now we kind of have it pretty much dialed in, so that it isn't. We're not guessing. But whenever there is a new idea, let's say, or a new property, and we're looking at okay, so do we take it down, or do we wholesale it, or do we wholetail it? I mean, really, we look at the market, we look at our projected cash flow over the next couple months. We also set revenue goals for ourselves for every month and for every quarter, and we review those on a weekly basis. So we know whether or not we're on target to hit a revenue goal. And so there might be some, for the overall better operation of the business, we have to say, okay, are we on target to hit our goal? If we're not on target, then we may choose to wholesale something instead of taking it down and making that money 6 months from now, because we need to meet our targets. Now, we're always guilty of saying, well, gosh, if we took it down and we rehabbed it, we could make 3 times as much. And we're very tempted to do that, and we do break our rules sometimes, and we'll say, for this one we'll rehab it, or for this one we'll wholesale it rather than wholesale it, But there's got to be some discipline, and Gabe and I don't make those decisions by ourselves. We make them together, so that if either one of us feels strongly about something, then we're not just going at it alone. But one of the reasons, and I think Gabe mentioned this before, one of the reasons why we're doing this private placement, why we're raising this private capital, is because last year when coronavirus hit, and like I had said, the liquidity and the funding dried up, we don't want to be exposed to that again. We want to be able to have the flexibility of being able to strike while the iron's hot, while there is opportunity, while people are jumping out of windows. We want to be able to have that resource to be able to take advantage of that. So we're not going to let that happen to us again. We're not going to be at the whim of the financial markets. We want to be able to create our own destiny. So that'll also give us flexibility to close on more things and have wider spreads. So to your point before, if we decide whether or not we're going to wholesale it or wholetail it or rehab it, the additional capital is definitely going to play into that going forward.
And in addition to that, the relationships that we build with those individuals will be able to take on as we continue to level up and to whatever avenues that we want to get involved with.
100.
What kind of, because you guys are doing fix and flips and wholesaling, but fix and flips is always, let's say, a little risky business, right? Like we were last week, me and Kevin came on, we were talking about a deal that I wholesale to some. Well, I sold and started financing to a fix and flipper. I was saying how I couldn't do the deal because my business is not set up to do those kind of rehabs, right? And it's that whole thing of staying focused on your niche. What kind of research are you guys doing, right? Like looking down the road, right? With the market, with knowing what has happened before, the liquidity, how quick it can freeze up. What kind of research are you guys doing when you're doing these fix and flips as a model and saying, hey, we're going to keep doing fix and flips, or like you said, maybe we got to pull back and do more wholesale because we see some kind of factors in that economy happening up on the horizon.
Yeah. Great thing. Go ahead, Eitan.
No, I was going to say, so, this is a conversation that Gabe and I have all the time, right? And this is something that we're particularly focused on right now because of how hot the market is. So nobody knows exactly what's going to happen in the future. We know that we can't live in fear. We know that we can't, stop our business because, hey, what happens if there's a big, disruption in the market? But by virtue of being good stewards of our capital and that of our investors, we have to constantly review on a weekly, monthly basis. Hey, what's going on with days on market? What's going on with the economy as a whole? What are the circumstances surrounding why the market is hot, and are those things going to continue for the foreseeable future? So we don't want to stop. We don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, right? We don't want to stop doing rehabs because that's where the opportunity is, but we have to be really plugged into the market. And I think we are, so that as things do kind of shift, if they shift and whenever they shift, we'll be prepared for it. But yeah, we discuss this constantly, and we look at every single deal like that whenever we take something down.
Yeah, which you guys mentioned, time is a big factor. So it kind of sounds, because of what you just expressed, you guys are not really looking to get into anything that's going to take too much time in case there's some type of shift. So is that one of the determining talking points whenever you're doing a flip?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We primarily focus on cosmetic rehab, something we can be in and out within 30 days and then back on the market. Yep.
Very nice. That's huge right there. How are you guys navigating the waters for whenever there is a complication? For the classic TV moment where you guys, either the inspector catches you or you take apart a drywall or a cabinet in a vanity, and now you got a plumbing issue, an electrical issue, a city issue. Talk to us a little bit about some of those challenges, and how do you guys now, what have you learned from, and what, are there some standard operating procedures that you have now because of some of these experiences?
Yeah, so with those TV moments, I got to say they're a lot more exaggerated than what we find. I mean, first off, we've been doing this for long enough that we kind of have a good sense of what to expect when we see a property. There's just a pattern, right? The more you do something, the more of an expert you become. Now, there have been times that we've pulled open a wall and it was like, oh my God, or we had one situation where we took out a wall and it turned out that it was kind of load bearing, and so we had to get an engineer involved. But these things, I say, are few and far between. How do we mitigate against those? Volume. It's all about volume. There are certain things that you just cannot predict are going to happen, whether you get red tagged by the city, whether you have a more complex issue with the house. But we don't let one deal ever overwhelm us. So we spread all of our risk across our entire portfolio, and that means that no one deal is going to tank us completely or hold up our cash flow. We have many different properties that are going to give us cash flow at different times that will support some of the deals that take longer because of a delay with the city or with the project.
I love that. Yeah, I love how you said the volume, right? Because you're looking at even in your fix and flip or whatever your wholesale business, you're looking at it as like a stock portfolio, right? I got some losers, I got some winners, I got some really, really big home runs. So if one guy's over here dragging it down, these other two are picking it back up, right? And most people don't look at it that way. So I love the way how you explained that.
And
Yeah,
then
and if
also,
we're not,
One thing I want to say, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, and also looking at it as a production line, right, in a factory. So we look at our wholesaling production line, ensuring that everything continues to run smoothly for each aspect of that, which we know very well. It's documented. And then also with our rehab side, which is a totally different production line. So we look at each one before you start at the production line. You say, which one do I want this one to go down, right? And then once it goes down that, then you want to just make sure that they're running smoothly, so that if one production line goes down, or you decide to stop production of that piece, the other continuing to run smoothly, and you can ramp up production on it.
yeah, and there's two metrics that Gabe and I look at. Gabe for the sales side, and me for the rehabs. Gabe looks at contract fallout rate, and then I look at how many rehabs have we done where we're either over budget or where we've made a much smaller profit or lost money or whatever, where we didn't make what we expected to make, right? And so if our fallout rate on contracts goes up, it means that we're out there, we're getting we're scooping everything up that we can because we're taking risks. If we made tons of money on every single rehab that we did, we wouldn't be taking enough risk. And so we've had some rehabs that have been duds where, hey, we only made $5,000 or we lost $3,000 or $4,000. But that means that we are taking as much risk as we can safely.
Awesome. And one thing about the risk, right? You both talked about taking a risk. You talked about how basically we're investors, right? We have to invest. We have to invest regardless of what the market does. That's what we do, right? But to me, it points to the mindset, right? You both have this mindset where you're going to go out there and do it, right? And be positive about it. Regardless of what happens around me, I'm going to stay focused and keep going. That's how when COVID happens, you keep on pushing through, right? So, what are the things that you guys have done to help build your mindset to where you have that laser sharp focus of positivity that regardless of what's going on around me, I'm going to stay focused on the task at hand?
Oh, it's really good questions, guys. As far as being comfortable with risk, the only way I naturally have always kind of been a risk taker in general. I feel alive when I do that. However, how do you balance that out, right? I think by continuing to push yourself beyond, as long as you're within your, outside your comfort zone, along that threshold where you're like, I'm not really that comfortable right here. So continuing to ensure that we're in that location and then reviewing it with metrics like Eitan said. So if, for example, on the contract side, if we're getting multiple right now our contract fallout rate's less than 10%. But what we do is we're reviewing that to see that we're probably not taking quite enough risk. I'd rather see that maybe up around 20% or somewhere between 10 and 20% to be comfortable with, okay, this one's going to cancel, this one, we paid too much or whatever it might be. But I think, as far as that development piece, I would sum it up in just a few things. I recently took a productivity course on, how can I do more with less time? And I think really to sum that up without going too deeply into that, I plan out my day the night before as far as looking at my day. So I plan that out and I focus on maintaining that plan. And then I time block substantial amount of revenue generating time. So when I time block that time, I'm turning my phone off and people can't get in touch with me. I have like an emergency number that a couple of people have. It's an absolute emergency. But I'm not taking any other phone calls during that time blocking revenue time, right? Training time for our acquisitions people. And then getting up early, a little bit of exercise, 5 to 6 days a week, which I put in the calendar to keep my mind healthy. And then reading in some sort of course. So I'm always doing some sort of sales course to continue to move in that direction. But all of those things combined, it has allowed to have that mindset piece. I think really to sum it up, cutting out the noise. Don't let all the noise affect you. That's for me. What about you, Eitan?
I mean, staying positive in the face of bad things is pretty easy because, you know, we're always searching for the next deal. We're always looking for the next opportunity, and we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And so when I get up in the morning, first off, just like with Gabe, I'm planning out my day. I have my my to-do list, and I structure my to-do list around the times that I need to be at a certain location. And I'm not going to the rehabs every day, so I'm getting good crews to manage them, and I manage those managers maybe like once or twice a week that I'm going out to a project. So spending my time wisely. So getting up at the beginning of the day, planning out my day, and then being able to work as part of an incredible team where we're driven by our core values and by our desire to make a difference in our community and in our families. That's what keeps me going. And my wife, you know, we joke that like every night before we go to bed, I tell her, all right, tomorrow's a big day, or on Sunday night, all right, we got a big week ahead. So, you know, I'm getting myself pumped up. And then at the end of every day, she always jokes that I'll come home and she'll say, how was your day? And I say, gosh, you know, I didn't get as much done as I had hoped. And she laughs and she says, well, you say that every day, so you need to lower your bar for what you expect to complete. And I say, no, I don't, because we're trying to change the world and we're making big moves. So if we reach for the, you know, if we reach for the stars, then if we miss, you know, whatever, we're not, you know, we're not coming up short. So being motivated by our goals and being motivated by this team is like critical.
I love it. I'll tell you what, you guys have definitely not only shared a lot of key points on the mindset and cutting out the noise as one of the biggest takeaways that I'm pointing out and walking away from today's conversation, but also in the nitty gritty. Your sales process is amazing. The way that you guys are looking at the rehabs and managing the rehabs, you guys really gave us a very broad a perspective of how a well-balanced, oiled machine needs to look like. So I congratulate you guys. I'm super happy because I can tell you guys that there's nobody more well-deserved. I think a key point in your success and your dynamic is you guys are amazing at building relationships. I mean, unfortunately, we haven't been able to see each other during this whole pandemic craziness. We need to change very soon. But from day one, when I met you guys are truly genuine, you're transparent, and I know you take that into your business. And that's probably why you guys are thriving when a lot of people are hurting.
Definitely.
So I really look up to what you guys have done. I appreciate you guys coming on. It's been an hour. I know we got business to get back to. And let's do part 2 face to face, boys. It's been too long.
Absolutely, look forward to it.
Appreciate you, man. And
Thanks,
nice
guys,
to
for
meet you.
coming on, man. Like I agree with Kevin. Not just the not just the organizational business stuff, but just the mindset sticks out to me. I'm a mindset guy. Kevin's a mindset guy. You know, I think people realize that you can have all the business acumen in the world, but that mindset is what gets you through. So just to see you guys share your story, to see the partnership and stuff like that, just appreciate you guys coming on today.
Cool.
Guys, if there's somebody who wants to reach out to you guys, if they have deals in the South Florida area, if they want to be able to partner with you guys, or even just discuss future joint venture opportunities, what's the best way that they can connect with you guys?
Well, they should just text me directly. Text, call. I don't know how you want to put my number on there or how you want to do that, but yeah, I guess.
Well, for the people listening through the audio, I mean, you know, you are a married man, so it has to be business related. Even though it's tough for the ladies to resist the big Gabe, but
Yeah.
if you're listening, go ahead and put your office number out.
Yeah, just reach out to me directly at 561-400-0377. And again, like I mentioned, if it's a deal that would work for us, we may buy it. If it doesn't work for us and you want to wholesale it, we can discuss details on that, but we're totally transparent with how we go about doing it. Love to build relationships and work with anyone. So
Absolutely. And
Guys.
I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know, Kevin, too, if you have a lot of people on here who are looking for lending opportunities, but we have a couple different lending opportunities that we can discuss with people. They can reach out as well.
You guys are A1. I highly recommend you guys to anybody who's in our markets and wants to do business. These guys are the real deal. We appreciate you guys again, and we'll let you get back to work. And I'll reach out to you guys later on today, see if we can't get together in the next couple weeks.
All right, awesome.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Good to
All
see
right,
you.
guys. Jay, see you
Shut up
next
and
week, brother.
invest. Shut up and invest, man.